Well, hey, it's nice to meet everyone. My name's Jeff, and I'm Jeff Wood with the Woods Tree Farm. Just to let you know, tree farming for me is just a part-time project for me. It's a hobby. Actually, my full-time job, I'm a professional negotiator for a software company, and so I do that during the day, and then I do this on weekends and at nights as well to be a tree farmer. So kind of two sides of a coin here on that. So a little bit about the tree farm. I would say it's a year-round endeavor over many years. And the reason I say that is a lot of people think that you just put a tree in the ground and you come back a few years later and let somebody cut it down. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll have a better appreciation for what goes into getting those trees in the shape and form that you're used to. And then it takes many years. So when you plant a tree, that seedling is usually about 3 years old before a farmer will buy it. And then it takes about 8 to 10 years for that tree to get to a size of going to market. So it takes quite a while before you can even start making your first dollar. So a little bit here, this is some pictures of the farm. Off to the upper right, that's me as a 5-year-old. My dad bought the farm 50 years ago this year, and that's my dad beside me there. And so we've had the farm in the family a long time, and I'll get into more of the history of the farm as we go forward. Okay, let's see. All right. So feel free to jump in and ask any questions as we go. I'll try to make this as interesting as possible. I think trees are really interesting. I don't know if other people always think they're as interesting as I do, but I'll try to give you some fun facts and uh, just talk this through with you. So, history of Christmas tree farming. So, origins of tree harvesting. Initially, Christmas trees were gathered from the wild out of forests. And so you can see in the bottom left, there's a picture of a 1930s Christmas tree. That's kind of what you would find typically in a forest, that you would go out and cut it down and bring it home to decorate. And then I would say in the early 1900s, you started to see Christmas trees showing up in Cook County, in particular in Chicago. And what would happen is boats would come from Michigan and or Wisconsin. They would harvest trees there and bring them down Lake Michigan into the Chicago River and dock in the city and then sell the trees off their boats. And so one particular captain, Captain Herman, I won't try to pronounce his last name, was known as Captain Santa. He sailed a boat called the Rouse Simmons from the Upper Peninsula to Chicago each holiday season. And he would deliver thousands of Christmas trees to families along the Chicago River. He was known as Captain Santa because many trees he just gave away to families of need. He just felt that everyone should have a tree, whether they could afford it or not. And so that's a picture of him in the upper left there, around 1912. Unfortunately, actually on my birthday in 1912, his ship sank, and it was very treacherous to be navigating the icy Lake Michigan waters with ships back in those days. And they never did know at the time anyway what had happened. But unfortunately, over the following days of when his ship disappeared, Christmas trees were washing ashore in Lake Michigan. And so that's how they knew that he was tragically lost. So commercial farming started to emerge, really started to take off in the 1950s. And it was when farmers began using idle farmland to plant trees to get some extra crops. Um, and then pruning and shearing techniques improve the quality of the trees over the years as well to what you have today. I've got a book that was written in 1957 that I use as a reference guide. And it's funny because they say the average wholesale price in when the book was written was 50 cents, and a retail price for a tree was $1. Tree farms today, which you can see a picture of a modern Christmas tree farm, there are 25 million Christmas trees grown annually on farms, and they represent about $2 billion in sales every year. Okay. So a little bit about tree nursery stock. This is a picture taken when I went to a summer Christmas Tree Association meeting in Michigan this year. And Illinois tree farmers usually buy their stock from nurseries in Wisconsin and Michigan. And so if you look at that picture in the lower middle, that's a picture of what the seedlings look like. They're about 1 or 2 inches tall. Oh. And then you can see from the bigger picture that that's the greenhouse where there are millions and millions of trees being grown in one greenhouse. Then what they do is they'll transplant those into a transplant bed, which is in the right-hand side of the slide. And so then they'll have hundreds of thousands of trees growing very close together in a transplant bed, as they call it. So when I buy a tree, it's usually 10 to 12 inches tall, and it's been growing for usually 3 years from the seeds before I get them to come to my farm. Okay. So the Christmas trees we grow on my farm is we have Scotch pine. It's valued for it's got very sturdy branches and good needle retention. And it has a classic holiday appearance, but it takes a lot of work to get that holiday appearance from a Scotch pine. And Scotch pines were really popular in the 90s and early 2000s. Tree farmers like them because they tend to grow fast and they'll tolerate weather variations and poor soil conditions. But they've kind of fallen out of favor for many farms because they're very susceptible to bugs. And sometimes they'll go through their needle drop cycle right before harvest time. And so some of their old growth, not much, but some of their old growth needles will turn brown and fall off like in October, November. And so they're not quite as popular. Another tree we grow is white pine, and it features a soft, flexible needles, and those are good for families with children or pets due to its gentle texture. The branches tend to be a little more flexible, so they're good for smaller ornaments, or if you're going to do bigger ornaments, that you would put those closer to the trunk. And then the tree that I really like that we've started introducing in the last few years is called Canaan fir. It comes out of the Canaan Valley in Virginia, and it's favored because it has really good needle retention, good, nice fragrance, and it grows about as fast as a Scotch pine, but it's a fir tree. So it's a very popular holiday choice, and we are having that become more and more of our inventory. And then I don't have it listed here, but we also grow white cedar, and we're growing those exclusively to make greens for wreaths, because we also make wreaths, as do many of the farmers when they do tree sales. Okay, so I'm going to go through kind of the seasons to help give you a feel for what we're doing throughout the year. Spring is a really busy time on the farm, and so optimal planting in northern Illinois is middle of April, so right around tax day. And that's because the risk of frost has usually passed by April 1st, but you could still catch the spring rains, which will help the plants with any transplant shock. And most tree farmers don't irrigate their Christmas trees. They'll just grow more, knowing that they're going to lose some if there's a particularly dry season. I tend to water my trees their first year. I have a local creek that's on my property, and I've gotten permission from the DNR that I can water my trees with that. So I will do that to give them a higher survivability chance. And then in the spring is when we map out the tree spacing. So we use ours on a 6-foot by 7-foot grid, and that'll be about 250 trees per quarter acre. And a quarter acre is, like, think of it as an average suburban residential lot. So you can get 1,000 trees on an acre, which is a pretty high yield if you put them in really tightly. Because we're a U-cut lot, we tend to have we'll skip a row so that we can have our hay wagon go through our farm, and we want to make sure we've got plenty of space for people to get in to cut down their own trees. And you can see in the upper left, we prepare our seedlings. So that's a 2 to 3 year old tree right there that would have come from a nursery like the one I showed you earlier. And we trim the roots so that they're not too big for the hole. We give them a really good drink. We soak them thoroughly. And then we put them in it's almost like a gel. That's like a root treatment that will help before planting. And it kind of helps them with any transplant shock. Then we dig the holes. I've done this a couple of different ways, but the way that I have found works best for us is we use a post hole digger. So that's in the upper right picture there. And it gives us loose soil for the tree roots to spread out and for water to penetrate. And then there's a whole lot going on in the bottom picture here. That's a bunch of family and friends helping on planting day this year. And so what we're doing is we're amending the soil with some compost that I get from a local horse farmer. And then we're adding mulch around each of the trees, which I get from a local sawmill that's in town in Kirkland. And that will help with keeping the weeds down naturally and helps to retain moisture. And so when we plant the trees, we make sure they're at just the right height, and we compact the soil to remove any air pockets. And then we add, you can see in this picture, a bamboo pole by each tree. This helps to keep them marked when the grasses start to grow up. And also we will attach trees to the bamboo pole to help them stay straight as they get settled in that first year. All right, so moving on to summer. This first slide talks about pruning. Tree pruning is a very big part of tree farming. The trees do not necessarily grow into that beautiful Christmas tree shape without a lot of work. They would tend to look more like that 1930s tree that I showed you on the first slide. So we prune in the summer to shape them and encourage healthy growth and fullness. Just a little bit about trees. Firs have their buds along the branches, and pines have their buds at the end of the branches. So everywhere you trim a pine tree, 5 buds will come out the next year to give it a nice full appearance. So here's an example of before shearing and after shearing. So as you can see on the before shearing, there's long branches. It's wild and shaggy looking. And you've got my dog there. She's always by my side running around on the farm. And then after shearing, you can see it's kind of hard to see because it's green on green, but the tops are trimmed. We've put this into a more traditional shape, and my dog ran off somewhere. In the right side, you can see where I've got a shearing knife in my hand. It's kind of like a machete, but it's a thin knife that we use. And then I've got shin guards on because, last thing you want to do is to be swinging a machete and chop into your leg. So I wear those as well. And then the other thing that we're constantly looking for in the bottom left is double leaders. A leader is the topmost branch of a tree. You want to make sure you don't have any 2 leaders because that'll start to create where you'll have like a double tree or a twin. And you want to discourage that. So you pick which one's strongest and you trim the other one back down all the way down to that top whorl. And then that helps to have the trees grow straight and uniform in that conical shape that you're looking for. Okay, a little bit more about summer. We've got pruning, pests, and plant management. So we're always on the lookout for pests and disease management. As the warm weather increases, pests and fungal risks come up, making it really important that we protect our crops. Our farm uses minimal chemicals. We try not to as much as possible. In the upper left, you'll see that's a picture of actually a boring beetle going into my tree. And you can mechanically remove those from the tree when you spot them. The tree will actually exude sap, trying to spit the beetle out, if you will. And so we go along and we'll try to get those borers out of the tree. Usually it doesn't kill a tree, but it can stunt its growth. We're constantly on the lookout. In the upper right is a manual that we take out in the field with us where we're trying to identify, especially as a new tree farmer, we're trying to identify if we've got any fungus or any sawfly or other bugs attacking our trees. You can see from the bottom left, um, we've got some yellowing needles on this particular Scotch pine where we will keep an eye on that to make sure that that's not just a transition of new needles, that we don't have something worse going on. And in the bottom middle, there's a tree that's got brown. And I was really worried at first when I saw this. In many cases, what farmers will do, if they see something that's very contagious, they'll actually cut the tree down and burn it. In this particular case, I got lucky. This is a Canaan fir that I was telling you about earlier. This one had just gotten, I think the branch broke when we were mowing, and I was able to just cut that branch out, and it wasn't any problem to the trees, doing just fine. And then we're always doing weed management. You can see on the right, there's a seedling there, but it's being overtaken by some of our wildflowers and weeds that we have growing on our farm. So that's a little bit about what we do in the summer. It's a very busy time. And then fall, we're preparing for the selling season. So we'll tag our mature trees, and you want to make sure you go out and tag, or you only release certain lots of trees so that you're managing your inventory. Keep in mind, it takes 8 years to grow a tree. So the trees I planted this year will actually be for 2032's sales. So we want to make sure that we're preserving inventory for future years. We don't want to sell more trees than we won't be able to provide for our customers in future years. So we want to make sure that we're getting the trees ready and doing any final trimming, etc. We're preparing equipment and supplies. You can see this hay wagon here. That was actually a project that my wife and I did last weekend. We got the hay wagon ready for hay rides. That's a hay wagon from probably the 40s or 50s that I bought from a neighbor farmer of mine, and then rehabbed it into so we can have hay rides when people come out to cut their trees. We clear access paths and we do final tree assessments. Some other equipment. I have a 1953 Ford tractor in the upper left. It's my pride and joy. I knew nothing about tractors when I bought that, but got it running and know it very well and how to work on it. They made those tractors so they'd be very easy for farmers to fix, and the engine is accessible so you can fix them even out in the field. So it's a great little tractor. The bottom left is an investment we made where, I don't know if you've ever bought trees, but they bundle them or put them in netting to make them easier to take home on your roof. So we've got one of those as well. And then in the bottom right, we're looking for pine cones. You want to take pine cones out kind of throughout the season as well to make sure that they're not distracting from the growth of the tree, because they'll put a lot of energy into their pine cones versus their branches. So you want to get those off as well right before the season starts. So then for winter, call it the big show. So we've got our inventory prepared. As You Cut Tree Farm, we make sure our customers can come and pick out their perfect tree. And I use that term as relative, perfect for them. Sometimes the trees, particularly when you're a new grower, may have some gaps or may have some areas of the tree that you'll want to cover with a little garland here, put a big ornament there, etc. But that's all part of the fun of doing it. We also make wreaths, and we have a tiny little gift shop that we stock with gift stocking stuffers, and we have refreshments for our customers. Then we'll host our customers, and when we do that, the interesting thing about tree farming is you do all of your sales across 6, maybe 10 days a year. So you've got to ramp everybody up for 6 days a year, which is typically the weekend after Thanksgiving and the weekend after that in early December. And so you've got to be doing a lot of marketing, a lot of hiring to attract new and old customers. And then for us, we take reservations and we work on special accommodations for families who have kids or adults with special needs, where we'll actually see if they have any particular needs that we can meet for them. And I'll talk about that more further on in the conversation. But our on-site activities are tree cutting, wreaths, a bonfire, hay rides, refreshments, and gifts. And then January to March, after the sales are over, farmers will focus on evaluating their sales. They'll do their bookkeeping. We have winter meetings that we attend, and then we'll plan for the next planting season to make sure we've got sustainable growth and inventory going forward. All right, at our farm, we use sustainable farming practices, and we're always trying new things. And so you'll see these are some pictures from our farm. So we do natural soil enrichment. I met with a soil guy at one of our tree farm meetings, and he recommended to me to use clover. So we plant a lot of clover in and among our trees, and it's used to replenish nitrogen, and it reduces the reliance on synthetic fertilizers, and it improves the soil health naturally. For weed suppression, we use mulch. Like I said, we buy that from a local sawmill. We apply that around our trees, particularly when they're young, to suppress weeds, and we don't use any Roundup at all on our tree farm because we actually will do it through mowing around the trees. The clover only grows about 12 inches high, so it's not going to bury the trees as much. And then we use the mulch as well. And I did find that I need to go a little bit thicker on the mulch this year, next year than I did this year, but it did work well. And then we're always looking at healthy soil. So if you remember from that planting picture, we have compost that we get from a local horse farm that enriches the trees and provides organic nutrients to our crops. And then we're really into biodiversity. So we have a lot of wildflowers around our farm. We have milkweed for the monarchs. We have goldenrod is another plant as well that we've got around. And so you can see some pictures and the clover obviously as well. And you can see some pictures. There's a bee on one of our clover leaves, and there's a butterfly. That particular one is not a monarch because monarchs only will eat off of milkweed. And then we also put up bird houses because birds will be naturally eat bugs, bad bugs in particular. And then we've got an owl that we're very happy to have. And that's a picture of an owl pellet in the bottom middle there. And you can see that's actually bones from mice and such. And they help keep our rodents populations down because they tend to like to nibble on the seedlings, which ends up killing them in many cases. So we really try to use sustainable farming practices wherever we can. We will use occasionally, we'll use a fungicide, but we try to use it very sparingly. And we have found we've only needed to do that for our white pines. So we feel like we're doing really well with that, and it works well, particularly on our scale. We're only planting about 200 to 250 trees a year. So we can kind of do things kind of more old school and smaller scale, whereas some bigger farms will actually plant and sell 10,000 trees a year. So we're definitely on the small side, but for us, that works out really well because we feel like we can give really good customer service and we can try some things without having to use herbicides and pesticides quite so much. Let's see. So this is kind of my last slide. We focus on calm and bright holiday experiences. So we're open to the public in 2025. We'll have a limited inventory, about 25 to 50 trees this year. That's one of the things I love about tree farming is your business kind of can grow over time as your customers come in. For us, we're doing early on, especially the first few years, our visitors are going to have exclusive access. They're going to have the whole farm to themselves for an hour to pick out their tree, and they can take a hayride. They can go to the gift shop, sit around the bonfire. And then we're really committed to supporting families with special needs. by providing accommodations for them. My youngest son has special needs, and we know firsthand that pumpkin farms and tree farms and holiday experiences can be very stressful. So what we want to do for not necessarily even just the child with special needs, but for the entire family to have a calm and bright experience for them. So we'll do an interview. Hey, do you have any mobility issues? Which we'll do our best to try to accommodate. You know, it is a working farm, but we have two different hay wagons, one that will accommodate limited mobility better than the big one that I showed you. We'll find out if a lot of times these kids will have particular interests, you know, if they have any particular like characters that they like or things like that. And we'll make an ornament with that particular character for them as well. And then uh, we really interview them. What do they like to drink? What do they need to wear hearing gear, anything like that as well, to make it a really good experience and a nice kickoff to the holiday season for the families. So, as teachers, I would just ask that if you have anyone that you may know in your classrooms or your schools that may want an opportunity like this, it's kind of unique among the tree farmers. Please share this with them, and we would love to host them. So you can find us at the woodsholidayfarm.com. We're in Kirkland, Illinois, and we're open by appointment only, Friday to Sunday, November 21st and December 14th, and you've got our QR code there. So in conclusion, I've got two things I want to show you. So hopefully you can hear this, but can you see that? Katrina, can you see that? That's a little bell. Let me see if I can. I don't
Let's
know
see
if you
where at.
can you see that? No?
Oh yeah, and you're holding it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep,
Can you
yep,
see
yep.
that? This
Hmm.
is actually, we had a one-room schoolhouse in our farm in the late 1800s to early 1900s. And we had a guy come out with a metal detector and he found this. This is a 1900 sleigh bell that he found on our farm. And I'll do it. Hopefully you can hear this. Can't you just hear that? That sounds like, hopefully you can hear it, but it sounds like a horse on a sleigh farm, in a sleigh. And I just thought it was so neat that here we put this tree farm on and we find a sleigh bell in the farm. And so in the next thing I want to do is I just want to really quickly share with you a picture of a short 1 minute video of our farm as well. I thought that this would maybe give you some context what our farm looks like. Let me see. Katrina, you tell me if I'm sharing. Can you see the picture of the farm?
Let's see here. Not yet. Let me see here. Oop. There it goes. Yep. And then there might be an option if on the bottom for
Yeah.
sound.
Oh, I
Uh,
don't have any sound actually. So,
oh, there's no sound in the
yeah,
video?
yeah. So
Oh,
here,
then
let
you're
me
good.
just,
Okay.
I'll just
Then you're
play
good
this.
then.
And while I'm playing this, I can give you a little bit of a talk over for it. So that's the barn we added. That's a 30 by 40 pole barn that we added last year. That's a little one room cabin that we built before tiny houses were cool. We built that in 1994 and we rebuilt it during the pandemic in 2020. Here's a little, you can see some pictures of our trees. That's our most mature lot there. And those will be the ones that we'll be selling this year. The tree we're looking at right now is the one that I showed you that we sheared. And then you can see the progression of our trees. And so you can see that, you know, every year where we're planting on the far left there, that's actually the trees we planted this year. They're about a foot tall. Trees go through a cycle where year one, they sleep. That's where they're just kind of getting used to being in their new farm area. Year two, they creep. That's where their roots grow. And year three, they leap, and that's where they start to really take off. And they'll start growing a foot or more a year, starting in year three. So I just thought I would just show you that you can see what our farm looks like. And with that, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask at this time. Anybody have any questions?
Would you be willing to host FFA students for like a field trip that want to learn more about Christmas tree production?
Yeah, we could do that. Jessica would, well, obviously we'd want to do that probably in the summer or like, yeah, we could, as long as we could do it off peak season, that would be great, Jessica. I would be glad to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
What
I'd love to do that.
what do you charge for a tree?
Well, normal tree farmers will probably charge 10 to $12 a foot. So a 6 foot tree, and the $10 is really probably more out in the country in the Cook County, DeKalb County, et cetera. They're probably more like 12 to 15. So one of the biggest tree farmers in the area, Richardson's Tree Farm, you may even know them from their pumpkin patch as well. They've been super helpful mentors to us. They're the ones that sell 10,000 trees. They sell their trees for $95, any tree you want. For us, we're selling ours with the 1 hour for $75 because we kind of have an introductory price, and we want to make sure that it's affordable and reasonable for our customers.
What county are you in?
We're in DeKalb, so we're really close to NIU, Northern Illinois University. So we're about an hour west of the city, maybe a little more.
Oh, well, I just might have to come see you on a Sunday.
Yeah, we'd love to have you. That would be great. So we do have our, if you go to woodsholidayfarm.com, you can reserve your spot. So
Yeah, I've already pulled you up.
okay, good.
That would have to be a whole trip coming home, and I'm not coming. I don't know. But
Yep. That'd be great. We'd love to just kind of get the word out.
Saws over there, or do we have to bring our own?
No, we've got all of that. We've got a wagon for you, kneeling pads, saws. We've got hot cocoa, et cetera, cookies, all of that, everything you need.
Well, I just might book you now.
Awesome. I wasn't doing this necessarily to make sales, but I just love talking about trees. But I'm glad. I feel like I'm just really blessed to be able to have this opportunity. I've always wanted to be a farmer since that little 5-year-old you saw in the beginning, and I'm just really glad to be able to do it now in my 50s. So.
When booking, do you have to tell you how many people?
Oh, you can and we'll reach out to you anyway. That's just for us to make sure we've got enough cookies and stuff for you. That's all. But it doesn't matter. We don't charge by the person.
And Jeff, why did you get into trees of all things?
Yeah,
And Christmas trees. You could do any farming, you could do pumpkins, you could do apples. Why Christmas trees?
Yeah. I think the thing is, I have always loved Christmas. Christmas has been my favorite holiday since I was a little kid. And we always had a live Christmas tree when I was a kid. And I really wanted to be a farmer, but like I said, I have a full-time job that's pretty demanding. And then I just happened upon the idea of doing trees, and it just works out with kind of our work-life balance and our, where we are with our lifestyle. And we had the farm. And so I happened to have like a quarter of an acre that wasn't being used for anything. It was literally just growing in tall grass. And that's how I got started. And it's just kind of gone from there. So of our 20-acre farm, we have probably about 2 acres in trees, and the rest we do in corn, soybean, but we're slowly kind of taking over. And I think we'll probably stop because we don't want to get too big. So we'll probably stop at like 3 or 4 acres total for ours at that point.
And when is your busiest season? I know you're selling things in winter,
Yeah.
but would you say that you're busy the other 3 seasons of the year?
Yeah, so I would say they're all busy in different ways. Obviously, the preparing for sales, which by the way, this is our first year, so we're trying to figure it out. But preparing for sales is really busy. So October, November, and then early December tend to be very busy. Other peaks are spring in April. There's a lot of frantic activity. We usually have like 10 or so friends that come out to help us plant, 200. Last year I planted 400 trees as well. And then we get busy in the summer, but that's usually only over across maybe a week or two, and that's when we do our shearing. And that's a lot of activity as well. And shearing can take 2 to 3 minutes a tree, but when you've got a couple hundred trees, and that can be hot work as well. It's sticky from the sap, etc. So each season has its own unique tasks that you have to do. So winter is the slowest. So once sales are over, a lot of tree farmers will go to the winter meeting and then head to the Caribbean for a long deserved rest afterwards. So.
And what do you do after trees are sold? Do you have any leftovers? Do you keep any branches, the roots? Do you
Yeah.
make anything out of the wood? What happens after, like, we see the tree up until it's in our home. What happens after that?
Yeah, sometimes some farmers will offer to recycle the trees. And for us, what that would be so we've got some farmers locally that will actually feed them to their goats. They love to eat the trees. We actually, the trees that we don't sell this year that may have been at the tree size, we'll either sell them as bigger next year, or we'll use them as wreath greens for the following years as well. And so we're constantly using them. Some people will actually cut the tree such that they'll leave one live branch on the stump, and then they'll actually regrow a tree from the existing tree. We don't do that necessarily because we just plant new seedlings, and we always plant where you cut a tree down, the next spring you're planting a new seedling as well. So, which I think gives comfort to people who are cutting this tree down. It's like, don't worry, we're putting a new baby in right behind it. So, that's good. And not to mention, we haven't even talked about it, but like the carbon that gets taken out of the air, how it's good habitat. Christmas trees are good habitat. They're great for the environment. So those are all things that are really good pluses for tree farms.
Very cool. Any questions, you guys? Anything else? And
Well,
if
thanks so much for listening to me. If you have any follow-on questions, you've got my contact information. And if you think of anybody that might want to come out to the farm, whether it's a traditional family or somebody who might need special needs, we'd love to host.